Hello there, friends of the program. It's Tate Frazier, and it's officially that special time of the year where we go on a march through madness together for the 85th edition of the NCAA tournament. What makes March so special, you ask? Well, it's the unknown. It's the fact that this is basically Survivor on a basketball court on CBS without Jeff Probst. And no matter how much you prepare, you cannot predict this kind of chaos. And that is what we will be covering on this podcast, One Shining Podcast. All the madness, all the David versus Goliath personified. It's the best show in town. The ball is tipped, and here you are with us. Come listen and join us wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome to the Ringer NFL Draft Show. My name is Danny Heifetz. I'm joined by Danny Kelly and Craig Horlbeck, and this podcast is an absolute shambles. It's a mess. I was at a bachelor party this weekend. It took me 17 hours to get home. Craig's threw his back out over the weekend and can't move in the chair and is debating doing the show from the floor. Mm-hmm. And DK is reveling in how we're older than him all of a sudden.
I'm just wondering. I have so many questions because we haven't talked about any of this yet. Heifetz barely made it home. Craig has been immobilized. And I mean, I'm doing relatively fine, but I'm concerned about you too. Craig, first of all, how did you hurt your back? What's going on?
I was doing a workout at my home gym, and I was in a garage with weights, and I was doing a kettlebell swinging workout. You know, when you swing the kettlebell between your legs, and I was on my last set, and I even debated whether or not Liz, my wife's in the other room, and she was like, "You want to be done?" And I was like, "No, let's 10 more minutes and then we'll go." I walk out into the other room. I start doing kettlebell swings. Like the third to last swing, something in my lower back fucking ruptures in a tragic fashion, and I collapsed to the ground like a sack of doorknobs, and I couldn't get up. And since then, it's been, I don't know, less than 48 hours since I've done this, and sleep has been a real problem. I can basically only lie 100% flat on the ground for me to feel no pain.
Just like Roger Goodell when he threw his back out at the draft a couple years ago.
Let me tell you something.
Just the way that you're sitting there, it's like, I can tell you're in pain, man.
Yes, I have a heating pad on my chair. This is the first time I've sat in a chair in 48 hours. It's not going well. I'm pumped full of Advil. It's not helping. And I feel older than Harrison Ford right now. So
I didn't say this before the show, but you also look terrible. Like, I look terrible too. Like, it takes one to know one. But like,
I'm decked out in San Diego State gear in honor of March Madness. It's all I could do to raise my spirits.
Sports week of the year. It's one of the best sports weeks there is. Certainly during the NFL offseason, and we're like at an all-time low.
Craig, did Liz help you get dressed?
No. Luckily, I can put on a shirt and a pair of shorts or pants on my own. Although underwear is the hardest part because you really got to bend over for underwear.
Socks?
No shot.
No socks. No way.
No fucking shot.
We're going to go through all the NFL stuff that's happened since our last recording. We also are going to be joined by the legendary Tate Frazier.
Yeah.
Basically been at the Ringer as long as anyone except Bill, basically. And so Tate is
first employee
of the Ringer. Tate's our kindred spirit, because like us in August in fantasy football, Tate has to spend the entire month pretending he knows what's going to happen in this March Madness thing that literally is unpredictable. And so Tate's going to come on, and we might as well explain March Madness to him, because I think, it's kind of a toss-up of what's going to happen. So Tate will come on, and then also, we do have some big news. Craig's got back news. We have big news. As you know, the NFL Draft is in Green Bay at the end of April, and we are not going to be in Green Bay. We're not going to do it.
Okay.
But we are going to go to Chicago. We are going to be in Chicago in the Midwest. And specifically, we're going to kick off Draft Week with a live show. We will be at Lincoln Hall in Chicago, Tuesday, April 22nd at 7 p.m. And you can join us. The tickets are going to go on sale this Wednesday, today's the 17th, 19th. I always have to do the math. Wednesday, March 19th at 10 a.m. Central Time, which is 9 a.m. Eastern Time, which is noon Pacific. And more information is going to be there at ringer.com/events. That's the ringer.com/events. And again, show is Tuesday, April 22nd, 7 p.m. at Lincoln Hall in Chicago. Tickets are on sale, 10 a.m. Central Time, this Wednesday, the 19th. And again, Ringer NFL Draft Show. And Yeah.
Heifetz's voice will be better.
I know.
Dude, I was
Your
gonna
voice
say,
is gone.
shit. All right, I got 5 hours of sleep the last 2 days. I'm not going to do the plain thing at the beginning. I'll tell people what happened at the bachelor party at the end of the show. All you need to know is 2 things. It took 17 hours door to door. I went through security 3 times yesterday at the airport. That's how bad. Like, I've gone to 2 bachelor parties this year. Shout out to my friend Bobby and my other friend Brian. The 2 bachelor parties combined, I was in the airport for over 24 hours between these 2 bachelor parties.
And these flights were short flights, right? Home? Like
They were 2 hours apiece. None of the flights were over 3 hours. Anyway.
What happened to your voice? Were you screaming a lot at this bachelor party?
I was dying.
Just
I don't know.
Yelling at the gate agent.
I did do Photograph by Nickelback for karaoke. So
you can hear that.
That sounds
the grovelly
right, yeah.
voice.
Look at this photograph. Now everyone's going to turn the
God.
show off. No one's going to come to the live show now.
Yeah, we have. It's like Happy Gilmore. I'm like 364 days to toughen up before next year's hockey tryouts. I got to get back.
That one hurt
into-
a little bit, but I'm okay.
We gotta get Craig's gonna be at the live show. He's just gonna. We're getting him like a floor.
You're gonna
mat. He's
fucking roll
lie
me
down.
out like Hannibal Lecter on one of those gurneys.
On a
Giving my
dolly.
takes.
Wait, we should do that. That would actually be incredible.
That would honestly feel great for my back. I would love that.
We just all get our
We
little Hannibal,
we turn you upside down halfway through the show to just like lengthen out your back a little
Yeah,
bit.
relieve
They
the
should have
pressure.
done that. They should have done that
Craig
with.
can do it upside down. Actually, my dad has one of those things, Craig. I don't know how much it would cost to ship.
Can we
it.
get that to Chicago?
Oh my god. That's yeah. Okay, so you guys want to do NFL stuff? And Craig, literally, if you get pull the ripcord, if you need to get down, just get on the floor at any point if you're in too much pain. Okay.
Good to know. Hopefully the Percocet sets in soon.
Yeah, we'll see.
He's gonna start speaking with a southern accent.
This is our chance. Did we ever say on the show
It
publicly?
hurts to laugh. What?
Craig, the way you're sitting, I can't
You
get
look
over
so uncomfortable.
it. You look so just. I don't know what.
And you know
the
what
word is.
sucks about all this? I was so annoyed because, March Madness is legitimately my favorite weekend of the year in sports. I think it's the best week in sports. SDSU, I thought was going to make the tournament. I'm always very excited to watch them. I go to a bar with my friends. And of course, they're in the goddamn play-in game this year. So the game is tomorrow instead of Thursday or Friday, which gives me 2 or 3 less days to heal up. So now I got to go sit in a bar tomorrow somehow and watch them play.
And your friends are going to get some table, and there's not going to be a back on the bar stool, and you're like,
There
guys,
are
I'm
no
going to have to go
backs.
home.
Yeah.
So, did we ever tell people? I don't think we ever said this in the show, but we had joked instead of risers and fallers or winners and losers, we want to do a fantasy episode on uppers and downers.
Yeah.
Where we were on different drugs. And if you get prescribed anything for your back, that might be our shot.
If HR is listening, I am only on Advil right now.
Okay. Oh, wait, one more thing before we start. We're going to have Tate on later to talk March Madness. We're going to do a March Madness ESPN bracket pool. So we're going to do a tournament.
Woo!
I don't know if we actually figured out what the winner's going to get, but Craig, you made the thing while you threw out your back and you were lying on the ground and you made an actual pool for us for the show. How do people join?
It's an ESPN bracket. It's called the Ringer NFL Show Bracket Challenge. We'll put the description.
NFL show?
Sorry, the Ringer NFL Draft Show Bracket Challenge.
Yeah.
It's on ESPN. I'll put the sign up link in the description of the episode, or you can email us. We'll send it to you there too. We'll also put the password in the description. It's all caps, Cloyce Box.
Cloyce Box, baby.
And we are going to have a prize.
CLOYCE.
We are going to have a prize. We're debating shipping a coveted Gentleman's Piss Club exclusive T-shirt
You
to the winner.
can't get these anywhere.
You cannot. So
Except for
there's
the
only
internet.
about 4 in existence. So we are debating sending one out to the winner. We probably will do that. So sign up, link in the description, and you can beat Danny Kelly's bracket by picking a team called Lipscomb.
That's how it's done. So we're pushing the limits on how much you can put in an episode description. So number 1, we got this live show, the information for tickets on the live show or the episode description, and how to join the bracket pool.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the limit on that, we're not doing the play-in games. So like San Diego State, so that basically you have to get in by what? Noon
Wednesday
Eastern.
night.
Basically, yeah. Well, no. Well, if you're in fake time, noon Eastern, or the games start noon Eastern Thursday or 9 a.m. Pacific Thursday. So just get them in Wednesday night or like early Thursday morning. But if you get your bracket in, and we're doing a limit of 1 bracket per person.
1 bracket per person.
1 bracket a person, and that's So we're gonna do the bracket thing. And so all right, let's get to the show. So the Bengals signed Jamar Chase and T-Higgins at receiver.
They did it.
Over the weekend. They did it. Our national nightmare's over. Jamar Chase gets 4 years, he gets $40 million a year. And he got 3 of the 4 years basic guaranteed. So almost $113 million guaranteed. So he's getting $40 million a year on average. The highest paid non-quarterback ever. Right there with Myles Garrett. T. Higgins gets 4 years, $115 million. which I actually didn't divide by 4 before the show began. What does that come out to?
I mean, it's over 20.
A little under 30.
It is 20, basically 29 million a year. So not quite what Jamar Chase is getting. So it sounds like 60-ish of what T. Higgins is getting is guaranteed. So they got them both signed.
Boy, I hope Joe Burrow's wrist is doing okay.
Well, it's funny.
It would be tough. It would be a tough situation if it went out now, as Heifetz drinks from a water bottle.
I feel like it's a really weird spot. I think the Bengals are in a very bizarre spot because Burrow was pressuring them to do this, to bring back Chase and Higgins, or they were going to bring back Chase, but to specifically bring back Higgins. We already know what this team looks like with all these guys on the team. Like it was last year where they didn't make the playoffs. Burrow already had an incredible season. Burrow was like 5th in MVP voting last year. Did he lead the league in touchdown passes? Jamar Chase set the Triple Crown. It's like all this stuff is happening again. And so I feel like while it's cool that they brought them back and they kind of needed to, and I get it, and you want to make your quarterback happy.
They
and all
had
this stuff,
to, yeah.
It feels like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place where they're probably just going to have this like Groundhog Day last season again.
Well, they just need to get better players on defense.
Well, it's hard to do that when you're paying your quarterback and your 2 receivers $200 million.
And your top pass rusher wants to leave now. Yeah, that's fair. It's tough, though. I think there's so many variables in football, though. Like if they have a better run game, they can control the clock a little bit better. That will help their defense. Things like that, where I think they can get marginally better in different areas, and it would like make a big improvement. But overall, your point is true that they're basically banking on trying to do what they did last year, which was have an awesome offense, and that didn't get them that far.
So when Mina Kimes on Blue Sky, shout out Blue Sky, I'm Blue Sky, Danny Heifetz. And Mina Kimes had a really, really funny post where someone asked basically what you were saying, Craig, where they were like,
she's the fucking GIF goat.
Dude, Mina is the GIF goat. And someone asked Mina, wait, so if the Bengals are spending all this money on their passing game, does that just lock in that the defense will never be good enough for them to be a contender? And she tweeted that scene of The Simpsons where Mark McGuire is like, they're like, do you do steroids? And he's like, do you want to know the cold, hard, crushing reality truth? Or you want to watch me sock some dingers? And everyone's like, dingers! Dingers!
Sock some dingers is the best way to put it.
Here's the thing. Are the Bengals maybe going to have a tough time competing with $100 million or whatever a year in Burrow and Chase and Higgins? Sure. But it's cool.
Dingers.
It's
fun as hell.
Dingers.
You know what? The Bengals are like Happy Gilmore before he learned how to putt. Where it's off the tee, it looks awesome. You know, he's like 450 off the tee, and then he's still, triple bogeys every single hole.
So my real take on this with the Bengals, I love this. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it's going to be difficult for them to build on defense, whatever. All right, winning a Super Bowl is hard. There's 31 teams don't win the Super Bowl every year. If we just judge it solely by that metric, it's like, do they have the best roster? Nope. All right, well, we're going to go home. I
That's
think
exactly where I land, Heifetz, too. I'm just like, look, there's a million ways to win a Super Bowl.
You have an awesome thing going.
Keep your awesome players.
Keep your awesome players. Yeah. And the other thing is, I think they should be celebrated. I've been very difficult on, I think everyone involved in this should be celebrated. The players in the team for getting it done, a small market team kept like the coolest thing. One of the coolest things in the NFL is Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Any other sport, this is one of the reason the NFL is a little different than other sports. Any other sport, these guys leave. I think Burrow should be celebrated for sticking his neck out for his guys and getting Higgins paid and Chase paid and Gesicki paid, which is that one's crazy. They should have let his ass go. But I also think Jamar Chase and T. Higgins should be celebrated for doing this and staying in Cincinnati. This is not Miami or New York. They're staying with the small. Cincinnati's one of the smallest markets teams in the NFL, and they kept this awesome trio that, frankly, everyone else is jealous of. I know Bengals fans kind of hate me. You know what I would do for these 3 players? And so, you know what I would do for these people? And so, the assumption you could just get someone with the T. Higgins money. Do you want, the Bills are giving a smidge less to basically for the combo of Josh Palmer and Khalil Shakir. No offense. I like Khalil Shakir. You want Khalil Shakir and Josh Palmer, or you want T. Higgins? Craig, don't answer that.
I would take T. Higgins. I do agree with you. I really like the Bengals. Burrow, Chase, and Higgins are awesome. They're like the coolest trio in the NFL. It's just a weird spot to be in. The Bengals, Heifetz, you talk all the time about how you need somebody on the ticket, to get fans to show up to the game. The fans are happy with this. I'm sure this is awesome. This is just really cool. And even though this might, I don't even know. It's like if they let Higgins go and they signed 3 solid defenders, do you think they're a better team?
Well, I think that the problem...
Maybe.
I think it's a false choice. Because I think it's a false choice. The idea that, well, you could have spent this money on defense. Not really. That's not really how it works. Like, you have to draft better defenders. The problem with the Bengals defense is they let the good defenders go. They let Jesse Bates at safety go, and then their secondary came apart, and they couldn't do the cool stuff with Lou Anarumo on the back end, the complicated stuff that was working and stymieing Mahomes in the playoffs. Then they let DJ Reader go as defensive tackle, and he went to Detroit. Then the run defense fell apart. And then the Bengals went from this defense that was like a perfect playoff defense that got them to the Super Bowl a few years ago. They let their two of their 4 or 5 most important players go. Then they sucked. And because that's quote unquote, you don't want to pay a safety, quote unquote, defensive tackles are expensive. Okay. Rule 1 is keep your good players. And they didn't keep Jesse Bates. But just because you let Higgins go doesn't mean the money is going to other good players. You look at the free agent market. Dan Moore Jr. of the Titans, who now we're making fun of him, wants to be an all-pro left tackle next year. But I just look at it as...
This is like what you said, though, too, Heifetz, is all these free agents that are leaving on the open market, they're leaving their team, which is letting them go. Therefore, there's like potentially something that's like not quite worth keeping them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is why free agency is such a crapshoot, is because, you know, the vast majority of the players that teams really, really want to keep, they do end up keeping. There's definitely some really good players do make escape to free agency. That's certainly true. But I'd say the vast majority of free agents, there's some reason that their team let them go. The other thing is, like, if you're asking the question of how can the Bengals win a Super Bowl, it's by threading a needle that's very difficult to thread. But guess what? Winning a Super Bowl is very difficult to do for any team. And they just need to draft well. Like, period. They just need to draft well.
They missed all the... Like, here's the thing. The reality is they missed all of their defensive draft picks in the last 3 seasons except one. Like,
stop missing draft picks.
Yeah, if you're going to do the stars and scrubs model, you need to hit on all your scrubs.
And that's how it works. Like, who did well? The Eagles drafted well and they won. The Rams drafted well and they won a Super Bowl. They're very hard to find a team that wins the Super Bowl that didn't have 2 awesome drafts in a row.
They have one of the main core. They have one of the main core pieces to winning a Super Bowl, which is an elite quarterback and
the 2 receivers. And you have an identity. You have something. And again, you listen to the fans. Maybe you sit with them. But like the Bengals drafted Cam Taylor-Britt, a cornerback, in the second round, 2022. Cam Taylor-Britt's really good. Dax Hill was a miss, and he got hurt, and that's been a mess. Like Zach Carter hasn't done anything. You look around. Miles Murphy was a total miss at defensive end. Like Jordan Battle, DJ Turner. Like these are guys who just haven't been quite what the Bengals envisioned. You can argue whether it's them, whether it's development, whatever.
Also, who's that receiver they took last year in preparation for maybe T. Higgins to leave, who flamed out?
Yeah, exactly. And so, Jermaine Burton. That's literally a deletion of a pick. Like they're literally better off without him. And so they're just missing these picks over and over. And so to me, it's that simple where it's not like, oh, well, T. Higgins, if only you could have had a defense. No, you probably would let T. Higgins go, sign a couple defenders. The defense would still suck, but you wouldn't have T. Higgins. So do the cool thing, sock some dingers. We'll worry about everything else later.
You want to watch me sock some dingers?
Watch the Bengals.
You want to know the terrifying truth? Or do you want to watch
sock some dingers?
I want to watch Burrow and T. Higgins and Chase sock some dingers.
Dude, honestly, I kind of this makes me miss the steroid era of baseball. That was so fun.
Run it back.
I was like watching every Barry Bonds, every Mark McGwire, every Sammy Sosa at bat. Shit, I was watching every Brett Boone at bat back in the day. Like, it was just fun. I'm not advocating that these players put themselves at health risk. It was just fun when they were socking a lot of dingers. That's all I'm saying.
We actually were talking about this at the bachelor party because we went to a couple we actually were in Tampa in the spring training games, which are actually so much fun to go to because all the major league players, or almost all of them, are playing, but you're in like these smaller stadiums. So you're just like so close to them. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But we were talking, we're like, it's endlessly hilarious to me that Barry Bonds is like not in the Hall of Fame. It's like a baseball museum. Barry Bonds just not there. It's like he never played.
So stupid.
It's like, that's what the plaques are for. Anyway. Other stuff that happened while we were gone. Cooper Kupp signs with the Seattle Seahawks for allegedly 3 years, $45 million. DK, you noted that there's no guaranteed money been reported on this, so we'll see. It's probably 1 year.
I mean, it's been 3 days, and I think a general rule when it comes to hearing about guarantees, the longer you do not hear what the guaranteed money is, the worse off it is for... There's like some sort of rule, scientific rule for that. The worse off it is for the player because usually the agent is wanting to get out as soon as possible how much guaranteed money he got his client. So anyways, it's a 3-year, $45 million deal on its face. I don't know. Like, I'm guessing the guarantees won't be that much. And for reference there, the details of Sam Darnold's deal, which was initially reported as 3 years, $100.5 million, with $55 million guarantees. Actually, according to the details of the contract, a 1 year, $37.5 million guaranteed. He does have injury guarantees, so if he does suffer like a big injury, he gets another like $18 million in 2026. So that's where the $55 million comes from. But the Seahawks can get out of the Sam Darnold contract 1 year, $37 million. So that's like a perfect example of how different the initial reporting is versus like the actual contracts. We see this every year in the Super Bowl or in the free agency period. I do think the Cooper Kupp, not that you asked, I think the Cooper Kupp signing is solid. The Seahawks just need depth at receiver. I don't know if he's going to be worth what he's getting paid, which is like $15 million per year, according to what we know of the contract.
He's basically a receivers coach at the very least. Like he's going to come in and
right.
turn all these Puka Nakuas into Puka Nakuas.
That's the hope, yeah.
He'd turn Jake Bobo into Puka Nakua.
There we go. I'm into that.
I do think that's a real thing. Like there's a reason backup quarterbacks, there's a reason that usually when you have a young drafted quarterback, you get like you overpay 10, 15 million bucks to a backup quarterback who's like, I would like you to teach him to be a professional and when to show up to work and just like osmosis be around him and mentor him. And like, I think it's a smart investment. If you're Seattle, you have Jackson Smith and Jigba, who at this point is almost underrated how good he was at Ohio State because he just wasn't the same model of athlete as some of these other guys. Like not everyone can be Jeremiah Smith, but I think Cooper Kupp just being around a young group of guys where you just need someone to pop. Like I think that's really smart.
Yeah, they'll probably draft a receiver. So.
And the offensive system, I know it's not exactly a McVay system, but Clint Kubiak, like at the end of the day, like there's a lot of similar principles. Totally. And I think Cooper Kupp coming in, teaching them Cooper Kupp succeeded in large part because, he's just I think he's in the Devontae Adams mold where it's not like he's the most incredible athlete, but he just has like such a firm idea of what he's trying to accomplish on each play. And every move is intentional. I think that's the simplest way you could put it is some guys are out here winning with raw athleticism and some guys are just winning with like such intentionality with every single move and every single workout they do from February to March and April is because they need to have like a specific step win on one play in October. And they just know exactly what they want to do. And I think Cooper Kupp, that's just worth $15 million to me. It's like having him teach the whole room.
Can I make an NBA Warriors comparison? I'll put $100 in the jar or however much
put it in.
100? Okay.
Yeah, I'll put
I think $1 is what we...
Is $1 fine?
That's fine.
No, okay. What could... It's one Warriors reference. What could it cost, Michael?
How much could it cost, Michael?
This
is like the Warriors, like when they brought back Andre Iguodala when he was like 38, 39 years old. They just wanted him there on the bench basically to be a player coach with young guys like Jonathan Kuminga and Jordan Poole and stuff like that. Just to like half the time, he basically didn't play, but during every timeout or commercial break, you could see him on the bench coaching up all the young guys.
Drawing up plays.
I think that's a really good comparison. And then Jordan Poole like worked out to be one of like the most selfless and beloved players in the NBA, right?
I know you're obviously joking, but he helped us win a title that year. So for 1 year, it worked.
Yeah. And now he's like, my brother, we were in Washington. My brother was going to buy a Wizards Jordan Poole jersey. And I said, I think that's the single worst investment you could make.
You could think of
a player purely for on-court reasons that I would less rather represent.
You could argue that the second Iguodala left is when Poole started to crumble and Draymond punched him in the face and then they got rid of him.
There you go. So DK, you need to keep the Cooper Kupp forever. That's what Craig's saying. Others, anything else on Kupp, DK? Is it weird? I have a question for you. Is it weird to just have Cooper Kupp on the Seahawks? This is a division rivalry. Yeah, I joked. It's like when the Yankees got Johnny Damon and they shaved him. You should just shave Cooper Kupp.
Oh, he cut his beard too. There was like an Instagram post. Well, somebody shared an Instagram post. I didn't actually check whether it was super updated or not. Maybe it's from a while ago. But it looked like he shaved his beard down, which is
what's up with NFL players' obsessions with having nasty beards?
Kupp's is by far the worst.
It's like the James Harden thing where it's like, for the beginning of that, I'm like, I just think you actually didn't care at all. What do you hide?
Beard, he looks like a Civil War like general or something. Like the beard needs to go, man.
No, he looks like a savage. He looks like a caveman. It looks like he doesn't even know it's there.
Like clip their helmet and it's like beard
helmet,
pubes coming out
with the chin strap in, or it's like bleeding out all the holes in the helmet. Yeah. Keenan Allen's was terrible. I remember dudes like Brett Kiesel and the Steelers had a giant beard. Yeah, Eric Weddle.
Gnarly.
What's up? We need to ask somebody about that. We need to get Keenan Allen or Cooper Kupp on. DK, he's in Seattle now. Can you get Kupp to come on the pod?
Totally.
I still think...
he's from Washington too, so it's kind of like a homecoming thing for him.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Did we ever talk on the show how James Harden's beard should be studied by the CDC? Like you could just see like sedimentary layers and like the ground. Like you could just see what strip clubs
it's like rings on a tree.
Right.
Yeah. Carbon date.
I mean,
Magic
he just goes
City.
from strip club to NBA court. I can't imagine what's in that beard.
Dude, that thing is, I actually think it's the grossest beard. Everyone's like, oh, the beard. I'm like, that thing's horrendous.
Kupp's is the worst.
Cup
by
is,
far
well,
the
at least
worst.
he's done. I don't know what he's doing. All right.
I don't think
others-
Kupp's in the strip club. It doesn't feel like Kupp's vibe.
I don't know. He's wild. He's quietly also kind of crazy, but I don't know. Falcons keep Kirk Cousins. I have to do a little mea culpa on this. I know I mentioned this last week, but it's St. Patrick's Day. This is the day I said he'd be cut by. I was wrong. I kind of trusted. I should have done more homework on this.
Should have done your research.
Aaron Rodgers should have done my research. Should have looked into that. But I was wrong. I thought that the reason I thought the Falcons would cut Kirk Cousins is because I thought that his salary's guaranteed and they'd also have to pay him a bonus of $10 million today. And if they cut him, they'd save the money. That's not true. They now have to pay him a bonus next year, but his salary isn't guaranteed next year, which I don't know if because I was wrong, I owe more of an apology or more of an explanation on this, but I assume it's boring. So I'll just cut to the chase. And basically, they can keep him or at least credibly threaten to keep Kirk Cousins enough that Atlanta could trade him. So
They're going to wait until someone gets hurt.
Yeah, exactly. You could do the draft, and then at that point, it's August, someone gets injured, and you're like, hey, Kirk Cousins, it's like the HR meme it's like the $27 million for Kirk Cousins in February. Ugh. $27 million for Kirk Cousins on August 30th when, I don't know, J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota, hurts his knee again. And they're like, all right, yeah.
Don't say that.
Come on.
Oh, no?
Why, you picked the one guy who's coming back from a knee injury who hasn't played yet?
It's funny how much
I picked the guy who's already hurt. Is that weird? He lost 25
the one
pounds.
that's
actually
superstitious, and we're always making fun of him for
I
it.
picked the Vikings,
the one
honestly,
poor
because
kid
it
who
happened
hasn't
to
played
them.
a snap yet because his knee got hurt.
Poor guy,
picked
the
the
only
Vikings 'cause
first-round pick who missed an entire season. Yeah.
I picked him with Sam Bradford because I honestly, is it? I'm not going to push back, but can I ask a question? Is it really worse to pick McCarthy than it is to pick a healthy, great starting quarterback? If I said fill in quarterback X here,
don't even say
quarterback
it.
X.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I feel bad because he's so young and he hasn't played. Pick Geno Smith or something.
That seems way worse.
He's lived life.
Because he's not coming back.
He's 35 years old. Just signed a big contract. He's all right.
All right. So anyway, I think the Falcons, they could keep Kirk Cousins, and I was wrong.
He doesn't want to stay, though.
No, he's deeply unhappy about this because the reason he's upset is obviously he was signed and he didn't know about the Michael Penix being drafted later thing. And so, but he's got $27 million. So whoever has his salary is guaranteed. So if the Falcons would have to pay him the 27, whether he's on the team or not, which is what I got wrong. So it does make sense to keep him. And if they do, as DK's point is, you might as well just hold on and see draft time if someone blinks, because again, those three teams kind of want Titans first pick, Browns second pick, Giants third pick. I mean, one of those three teams that doesn't get a quarterback, we'll see how free agency goes. Maybe they don't want Rodgers. One of those teams could be a Kirk team around the next 6 weeks. And if not, worst case, August, you're like, someone's going to get hurt. So we'll see. Anything else on that? Where do you think he goes? Because I actually was kind of wondering about the Browns with the simple scenario that if the Titans take Cam Ward, which we'll come to in a second, and the Browns, I still don't think the Browns take Shadur Sanders because I don't think Deion will let Shadur go to the Cleveland. And I kind of still wonder. I don't know if Cleveland wants to
I feel
spend.
like we're putting a lot of chips or eggs in that basket. What if he will?
I just am like, if I guess I look at it as Deion saying on camera,
He didn't name the Browns.
He didn't name the Browns, but he said there are absolutely situations I wouldn't send him to. Teams with bad vibes.
You don't think the Browns is a situation he wants to send his son
That's
to?
what I don't know. I'm just like, isn't that the first team? You'd be like, I don't want my son on that 33rd name on that jersey.
I feel like we're jumping to conclusions here. But
absolutely an assumption. But I also, would you want Calvin? If Calvin was, if you
I'm
were
not saying
Sanders,
what I would do. I'm just saying, let's not just jump to the conclusion that he's not going to be a Brown. It feels like he is going to be a Brown. The closer we get to the draft, it feels more and more like Shadur is going number 2.
All right, well, that's more interesting. I also what I'm fucking saying. So go take that. So you think Titans are so the Titans signed a bunch of offensive linemen, but the real story is really the Titans just signed Brandon Allen as quarterback in free agency, which if you don't know anything about him, that's because you don't need to know anything about Brandon Allen. He's not going to start for the Tennessee Titans. DK, so you think Cam Ward, well, what do you think? Do you think Cam Ward to the Titans number 1 and then Shadur number 2 to the Browns?
Yeah, if I was going to make a mock draft today, that's probably what I would do. It's feeling more and more likely based on, just noise coming out of the combine that the Titans really like Cam Ward. Cam Ward is, if you remember coming out of the combine, like the narrative was 100% like Cam Ward solidified himself as the number 1 quarterback in the draft by far. And then there was questions over whether Shedeur was even the number 2 quarterback, and a lot of that stuff is media driven. And a lot of that stuff is just subterfuge or whatever. But that's just kind of the vibe that we got out of the combine. And then I think just based on what the Titans have done in free agency, they solidified their offensive line. They didn't make any big moves for the quarterback position. It just feels like Cam Ward is going to be the guy there.
How confident are you in that?
I mean, 60%, 70%.
So, and just to remind people, if people are tuning in, because I think a lot of people tune in to the draft at different points. So Cam Ward is the quarterback out of Miami. Most touchdown passes in college football history and 4th most, I think, yards in college football history. And he started from Incarnate Word, which is just renamed their school to Incarnate Word at this point. Then Washington State, and then Miami, and then he's your number 10 player in your board. And you compared Cam Ward to Jordan Love.
Yeah, I think the Jordan Love comp is because he has a strong arm. He's really confident. He thinks he can make every throw, and most of the time he can. I think the times where he has turnovers, the times he gets in trouble, is not necessarily because he can't see what he's looking at, which is I think more like a Will Levis thing, where Levis is just like spray and pray, like he's down there somewhere, I'm going to throw it up to him.
He's like Spider-Man when Peter Parker doesn't have his glasses, like it's all a blur.
Right. I think Cam Ward is very opposite in that sense, because I think he knows what's going on. He can read the defense. He just trusts his arm, maybe just a smidge too much at times, but for the most part, he's making big plays. He escapes the pocket. He can buy himself an extra beat, which again is, I think, an underrated talent for quarterbacks, is the ability to just buy one extra beat in the pocket. That means sliding, moving, shrugging off a tackle, whatever, to get the play off and keep the play alive. Because, a lot of times timing is thrown off by the different things that happen with the defense. So yeah, I think Cam Ward, I think he's a really exciting prospect, and it wouldn't surprise me if he goes to the Titans number 1. I don't know if like in a vacuum, he would be considered the number 1 overall player in a lot of drafts, but this is, it's a quarterback driven league, and they got to get their guy. So, and I don't even think it's like a reach. Like, I'm not going to call this like a big reach if they take him first overall.
And so if Cam Ward goes to the Titans at 1, which it seems like that's happening as of right now, if DK's 70% prediction that Shedeur goes to Cleveland at 2, that leaves the Giants in need of a quarterback, the Steelers in need of a quarterback, and 3 quarterbacks available in Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and then I guess Kirk Cousins available via trade. So Heifetz, if that happens, if it's Shedeur and Cam top 2 or Cam and Shedeur top 2, do you want the Giants to trade for Kirk Cousins in August? Do you want them to get Aaron Rodgers right now? What do you want them to do? Wait till the draft and then go get Kirk Cousins?
I don't want Rodgers. I think that, frankly, I think where I'm at is Rodgers. I think if you could actually if I could sever Aaron Rodgers, I would take Aaron Rodgers. If I could sever and put a chip in it, I mean, I know he's not an immunized guy, but if I could put a chip in his brain and actually he walks into work and doesn't remember anything else about his outside life, I think Aaron Rodgers is clearly the best football player left. I actually weirdly still believe in Rodgers' like ability as a Giant. I think purely from 1 p.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern on Sundays, Rodgers would be the best guy for 2025 if you're asking me between him and Kirk Cousins and these other options. I do think at some point I'm like, I don't know. It's something about his like world destroying capability. And like, frankly, it's not even just, I'm not even getting into politics and everything. It's like everything with Rodgers is about himself and he acts like it's not. And it's exhausting and it's a team sport, but he's so selfish and he's so quite literally self-centered that like it does affect the team.
Did you
like,
guys see the pictures that came out from the weekend where Aaron Rodgers is like on a beach, like
he's like Ben Affleck out there
pondering life's mysteries, like trying to figure out where he's gonna go. Like there's like this giant, race to get him or whatever. Yeah. He's just putting this off because he loves reveling in like the limelight.
I don't think I've said this in a minute. My Rodgers take is that he's Jaime Lannister, and that first scene with the Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones.
That first scene with Jaime Lannister. Where are you going with this?
Oh, no, not that one. No. The first scene with his dad. No.
Craig, are you talking about when he's having sex with his sister?
You bet.
Okay.
Spoiler!
Just checking.
They actually refilmed the whole pilot so people would know that. But so it's not a spoiler. But the first time he sees his dad's like, you care too much what people think of you. And Jaime Lannister's like, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. And his dad's like, that's what you want people to think of you. That's Aaron Rodgers. So anyway, that's a really long answer. But
hold on,
I'd rather just do Kirk Cousins. I don't care.
That's an epic scene, by the way. He's just like skinning this fucking deer.
It's a metaphor.
Have you ever gone on a walk on the beach to think about something? It's great.
So do you think that the irony of a 9/11 truther wondering if he should collapse the second New York franchise is just unbelievable to me.
You were sitting on that.
Is it too much?
You were sitting on that.
That's look. Well, you asked. Anyway,
I hope he comes to the Steelers.
Inside job. I
still really do. I want Tomlin juggling all those personalities, or I want the Steelers to trade up for Shedeur. I want as many personalities in the building as possible, and I want Tomlin juggling all of them.
Tomlin's chaos, man.
Save for having a Super Bowl team. The next most important thing that Craig wants is just something chaotic and like a circus.
Look, because there's two types of TV shows people talk about.
Right.
The TV shows that win Emmys that are great, or absolute disasters like The Idol. And you know what? Maybe it'd be fun if Aaron Rodgers joins the Steelers and it's like The Idol.
I actually want to come back around, though, because I know we're dicking around, but I want to come back to what DK said about calling me out for the or writing off the Browns and Shedeur.
I just don't want to make it. It's like the detective's curse where you make one assumption and it completely derails the rest of your investigation. Like we're assuming that might be it might be true. Honestly,
like Joe Burrow's wrist might be bad. Yeah, no, right. That's what you're saying. So I think here's where I think you might be right. My comp for Shedeur Sanders is Brock Purdy. Like, I think he's Brock Purdy with, like, you know, if Deion Sanders level confidence. And you know who would probably play all right for a Kevin Stefanski Cleveland offense is Brock Purdy. And I still, my thing with Shedeur is I think the Deion thing is underrated as the snowplow parent. Again, I've called Deion the Michael Jordan of LeVar Balls.
Yeah.
But I actually think Brock Purdy, I think Shedeur could actually play pretty well for the Browns. I think in some ways he's almost a better fit than Cam Ward for Cleveland and what Kevin Stefanski wants to do there. So I don't think that'd be crazy. I also think that like the idea that Cleveland won't take a quarterback is weird to me, because I think if you're Cleveland, you do want a quarterback because you have to get out of Deshaun's contract. You have this.
There's people making this connection too, is the fact that, and obviously money talks, and maybe money's the only thing that actually matters. But like Myles Garrett, after the season was over, was like, Browns, give me a plan to make us competitive again, or I'm leaving. And there was even like threats that he's just not going to play. Like, I'm not even going to play even if I don't get a new contract or get traded. And then all of a sudden he's like, got a new contract.
That's a fair point. DK, you might be right. I think that's a fair point. I don't know. I'm not, this is not based on any inside information. I just don't want to make the assumption that the Browns won't take Shedeur or that Shedeur won't play for the Browns, because I don't know that. Well, I think that's a fair point, though, because I think that my take on it has been, if Deion wasn't Shedeur's father, if he was just like a regular prospect whose dad wasn't the single most famous person in college football almost, and the Titans took Cam Ward, if you're the Browns, I think they should take Shedeur, because I actually think that in some ways the Browns are in a weirder spot than the Giants, because at least the Giants don't have fucking Deshaun Watson under contract, an unplayable contract. So it's like, you know, I know people are like, oh, the Giants are the most desperate team for a quarterback. I'm like, you're at least the Giants can find the money under the mattress to pay Kirk Cousins $27 million if they need to. The Browns are going to get two quarterbacks with Achilles injuries, and they're going to add another $27 million guy. And I'm like, the Browns have this scenario where they can get out of this Watson contract, maybe if they basically can get the cap credits back with the Achilles. But I'm like, you do need some kind of cost-controlled asset at quarterback here. So, I mean, if Shedeur's good, and then you have Myles Garrett under contract.
Pickett, by the way.
Yeah, it's not. No, Kenny.
Well, it'll be a quarterback battle in training camp.
Yeah. We'll see who wins.
I keep forgetting that they traded for Kenny Pickett.
Who cares? Kenny? At the beauty pageant? He work here?
Was he funny?
Is he funny?
Work here?
Okay. Derek Stingley, Texans cornerback, signed a contract for 3 years, $90 million. This happened today. It's the biggest deal ever for a defensive back. Yeah, Derek Stingley's good. I think he's a good example. Derek Stingley's like the reason you say like the cliche of don't judge a draft class for 3 years, because he had the foot injury and he still went really high. He's at LSU. He's really high. There's all these stories that Derek Stingley used to lock up Jamar Chase when he was young at LSU, and then he like hurt his foot, and then he didn't play, and then he had a tough rookie year, but I mean, he's basically one of the best cornerbacks in the entire league. So now he's getting $30 million a year at cornerback. And I like this stat from ESPN: opposing quarterbacks had a passer rating when targeting Stingley. The Cowboys game, Dak Prescott's passer rating targeting Derek Stingley was 3.5 out of 158. Trevor Lawrence had a 0 passer rating. Josh Allen had a 0 passer rating. Jared Goff had a 0 passer rating targeting Derek Stingley, which means nothing when I don't want to count passer rating, but when it's cool, I want to count passer rating as a stat. So that's all I have on that.
Yeah. Stingley's good.
He's good.
I remember there was like a lot
guy.
of arguments at the draft, at that time of the draft, between him and Sauce Gardner. It feels like both teams got good players in that case, but like they took the Texans took Stingley above Sauce Gardner.
And you know why
I think
Derek
some people
Stingley got
were like,
better and Sauce got worse?
Why is that?
Sauce Gardner started playing golf, and Derek Stingley, as far as I know, doesn't play golf.
Guys, I watched golf this weekend. I actually texted you.
Did you? You watched the players?
Yeah, I texted you Dr. Marvin, I'm sailing. I sail, but for golf.
You texted me that as I was in the gym right before my demise.
Oh my God.
It's Craig got distracted and then he blew his back out.
Well, phrasing. We're not doing phrasing anymore.
My bad. He threw his back out. That's a very important difference there. It's not what I meant. But anyways, but yeah, I watched a couple of days of the golf. Well, I was working on draft stuff, kind of had golf on in the background. I wouldn't say I would watch golf just
it's a great background
by myself.
product.
It's
great.
Just
like baseball.
I'm catching up on Full Swing from Netflix.
Oh, wow. Look at you. You're really diving in.
Yeah, I am. I'm like, I need to get into something in this offseason, so let's do this. Let's do golf. Let's do this golf.
Other things that happen here, I want to just, one other offensive line news. I want to just mention the Chargers signing Mekhi Becton, who was the left tackle for the Jets, who left, and then he right guard for the Eagles. They revived him. He's a free agent now. I think this is funny because this is another guy that Jim Harbaugh tried desperately to recruit at Michigan that he didn't get. It's like you're just getting white whales from 10 years ago at Michigan. At some point, like, now the tuxedos are a little fucked up, like the Chargers free agency strategy. Like, they're actually not even doing free agency. Jim Harbaugh's just recruiting again, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I feel like as you get older, that stuff starts to happen. You get stuck in your ways. You like what you like,
This is like Bill Belichick just hiring Joe Judge and like everywhere he goes, or Patricia. Like he runs out of people he knows. It's like Jim Harbaugh, but it's just like Jim Harbaugh's just still doing recruiting.
I know. Now the Chargers offensive line, outside of their center, Bradley Bozeman, the rest of their offensive line, the two guards and tackles, are all former first-round picks under 26 years old. And
so I think they're going to move Zion Johnson. They're going to try to move Zion Johnson to center because they just want bigger people. I think that's actually the nerdy theme I would take out of the last month of free agency. It's like, there's always quarterbacks or whatever, but I just think, frankly, I think that this offseason so far is the theme to me is when, like the joke about big pickup trucks are like, they're overcompensating. I think that this offseason is teams watching the Eagles physically dominate on the offensive line and the defensive line. And like, teams are just physically overcompensating and getting larger.
It's a big man's
people.
game.
It's a big man. The Washington.
The reason season.
The reason Washington went and got Laramie Tunsil and they went and got like Javon Kinlaw. And everyone's like, why did the Washington get Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle? Like, he's not good. Why'd you pay him? The answer is because he's bigger.
He's big and strong and athletic.
And they just were tired of getting shoved around by the Eagles on both sides of the ball. And I think all these teams anyone who played the Eagles this year was tired of getting shoved around.
Do you think, though, there should be a zag where trying to follow the Super Bowl winning team is sometimes harder than actually just coming up with a different strategy, and that like maybe we'll go smaller and faster, and that's the way we'll be.
Well, that's how you end up. Like
that's the Legion of Boom. But that was the Legion of Boom. The entire Legion of Boom. The premise was all these offenses got when basically Patriots were winning with really physical defense, and the Colts. Bill gets this part right. The Colts bitched. Bill Polian and the Colts bitched. And Phil talks about this all the time, but the Colts kind of got the rules changed around how physical you could be on defense. It was like the NBA version changing handjacking.
Well, they stopped big hits over the middle of the field, which helped allow, spread formations, slot receivers running over the middle of the field. You weren't in danger of getting your head taken off quite as much as you used to be. It changed the game, the way that these rules were legislated. And so
the Patriots get ahead of it, and everything gets faster. The Patriots get Randy Moss, they get Wes Welker. So all these teams were like, how do we stop this? We need faster defenders, lighter, faster, speed on defense. And then Pete Carroll and the Seahawks were like, what if we actually get bigger and beat the shit out of these little people?
Well, because it's hard. I feel like it's hard. If your strategy is we're going to beat the Eagles at their own game, that seems a lot harder to me than we're going to come up with something that like makes sense for us that actually, disrupts the Eagles' philosophy than to just try to beat them at what they already do better than anybody else. So we're just going to get a bunch of big players who aren't as good as the Eagles guys, and we don't know how to run this offense as well as the Eagles do, or the defense as well as the Eagles do. They should go the other way. They should zag.
The big difference here that we haven't mentioned quite is the Chargers, in trying to be like the Eagles instead of signing one of the most explosive running backs in football who had set a new record or whatever for 60-yard touchdowns this year.
And also having A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Yeah.
They signed fucking Najee Harris. Us fantasy nerds all season were like, the Chargers need to get faster. They're just not explosive on offense. They're so slow. And then they signed Najee Harris and Mike Williams.
He's back.
And the other thing is,
I'm slow guys.
I'm going to get a memento tattoo. I'm going to get a late breaking memento tattoo. I will not take the Chargers seriously to win a Super Bowl until they fire Greg Roman, the offensive coordinator, because he's staying around. I think
he's he's the perfect example of a coach that's like good enough to make you good, but not good enough to make you great.
He's the Tom Thibodeau of NFL offensive coordinators, where you bring Greg Roman in and you're like, wow, we are so competitive, we're so physical, we're so tough, and you get to the playoffs, and you're like,
the ceiling doesn't.
Yeah, the ceiling is it is absolute cement ceiling of you get a Greg Roman passing game is unlikely to beat you, unlikely to win a Super Bowl. It's just so hard when you have 9-man protect. You have 8 9-man protections with 2 routes against 5 guys. And you're giving up pressure anyway. It's oh my God. So anyway,
I guess Ladd's pretty fast.
But the Chargers
for him.
Yeah, Chargers probably beat some shit out of guys in the regular season. We're gonna bring Tate on in a second, but first, Craig, I want to do a little free agency vibe check. Just checking in on some fan base vibes, because you can win the Super Bowl, but wouldn't you rather just win the offseason?
Winning the offseason is more fun.
It lasts longer. Yeah.
It lasts way longer. Basically, every move is positive. You know what I mean? Nothing's happened yet. It's just selling hope. Nothing has failed. It's the best time of the year. I love the offseason. You can just start projecting shit. You're watching only highlight reels of all the guys you signed. It's wonderful. Who do you guys think, if you had to do the happiest fans award, or AKA who won the offseason, who do you think it is? I would say contenders, Raiders.
Yeah, they would be my winner probably.
I don't think anyone is close to the change that happened from the Raiders on January 5th.
It's just
to today.
It's like a true 180, in terms of vibes, just 180 degree turn.
The only thing the Raiders had going for them at the end of last season was that Brock Bowers was one of the best rookies ever. Right. But that was kind of most of it.
Getting a quarterback, head coach, offensive coordinator, and Tom Brady, and extending your best player, Max Crosby, having the 6th pick in the draft. Pretty good.
Ooh, Ashton Genty.
Geno Smith is the best Raiders quarterback in at least 8 years. And that's just when Derek Carr was good pre-broken leg. And Geno Smith, in theory, he could be the best Raiders quarterback in 15 or 20 years.
The Bears getting Ben Johnson and quote unquote shoring up their offensive line. I feel like there's an
mission accomplished.
There's a festering fear about Caleb Williams being a bust that I think is holding them back a tiny bit. But I do think the Ben Johnson in the offensive line with Caleb year 2 is kind of we could win the Super Bowl. I don't know if Raiders fans think they could win the Super Bowl. I think Bears fans think if this works out, we could be a 12-win team immediately. So I think they're kind of they're percolating a little bit. I don't know. You could probably throw in Commanders, Pats fans, Bills over the moon. Maybe Broncos, sneaky.
Broncos have had a
Bill was out here just saying
offseason.
Bill was just victory lapping the Patriots, just winning the offseason because they gave out the most money. But
it's probably the Raiders.
I think it's the Raiders. Again, you can't overstate what are the most important things in football? Coaching and quarterbacks. They have Pete Carroll, Chip Kelly, and Geno Smith. That's the most. The Raiders haven't had anything like that in. I mean, it sounds like an exaggeration, but
when's the last time the Raiders won the offseason, or let alone anything? But when's the last time we felt good about the Raiders in the offseason?
I mean, even then, it was John Gruden before all the stuff came out with the emails. That was that was 10 years and $100 million, and that was cool. But also, he'd been a broadcaster for 12 years, and he got $100 million. Yeah. I mean, Mark Davis only worth $600 million. I mean, oh my God, that was and ironically, everyone's you're going to with this guy forever. And obviously it only lasted 3 years, but that wasn't a lock that John Gruden was going to come out of 12 years off as a coach. I think the
Raiders are the clear-cut winner. Craig, you made a really good pitch, I think, for the Bears, just based on vibes. If we were actually grading the offseason, I don't know that we would put the Bears number 1, but Ben Johnson is the crown jewel in coaching hires over the last how many years do you think? I think his reputation, I don't know if he's actually going to be as good as his reputation would say, but his reputation is pretty damn sterling based on what he's done with the Lions offense the last few years. There's transformational potential with Ben Johnson, even though we might just be projecting that on him. He might not actually have it. You make a good argument with the Bears. I think that the Patriots are closer to I don't know. I don't think the Patriots have like the vibes are all that different. It's just been a good offseason for them.
I think the argument for the Patriots winning the offseason has very little to do with the players. The argument is that Mike Vrabel is the next Bill Parcells.
That's another good one. Yeah.
Like hiring Mike Vrabel is the argument to me. Like the reason I like the Raiders is because they haven't had the Patriots frankly don't get to win because you had Belichick for so long. But Vrabel to me was the best candidate. I'm impressed with the Raiders because I just want to see what Chip Kelly does in the NFL. But Vrabel's incredible. And I think the Broncos in terms of the players they got, I like the Broncos players a lot.
The upside for the Broncos is pretty crazy.
Huge.
Like obviously Evan Ingram in the Joker role, this mystical Joker role that we've talked. By the way, mystical was the word I was looking for the other day.
Thanks.
Mystique was the word I was looking for.
Okay,
and mystical I think was like a version of that. They also got Dre Greenlaw.
Are we going to let that one go, Craig?
Hufanga. What did I say?
Nothing. Just Mystique's a version of mystical. Which all right. You know what? Keep going.
They're close. There's some similarity where letters.
Is it
anyway.
Mystique just having mysticism?
No, probably not.
Okay.
We had a lot of ghosts that people were hitting me up on Twitter.
Craig
saying,
looks more in pain from this conversation than he does with his back.
No, I like leaned forward and like something just seared in my back.
Shooting pains.
Somebody just jabbed a knife into my back when I leaned forward there for a second.
Craig's posture it's very subtle, but very, very
my
obvious
shoulders are kind of
just in
tense and up. Wait, can
so
we do...
funny.
Before we get, Tate's coming on here in a few minutes. Can we talk about who lost the offseason? I feel like it has to be the Cowboys.
Yeah.
It has to be. Not only did they bring in Brian Schottenheimer, the Cowboys, I saw this on Twitter. The Cowboys have not signed a free agent over $6 million per year since Greg Hardy in 2015. It's been 10 years since the Cowboys have signed a free agent over $6 million. The cap has gone up by $136 million since then. And they haven't given a guy more than $6 million a year.
And Greg Hardy's like the worst person who's played in the NFL in the 21st century.
The Cowboys,
like as a person.
Oh God! The owner and GM literally made fun of his coaching hire and called him the biggest risk he could possibly make.
He used to be known as career assistant Brian.
He was sitting right next to him,
dude. And he's not Brian Schottenheimer anymore. Craig, he's the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. That's his name.
That's right. And the Cowboys made 18 moves in free agency this year, second most of any team. How many can you name? DK, what free agency decisions that the Cowboys made the second most in the league? How many can you name that jump out to you?
Are you talking about outside free agents?
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry. Total. Re-signings and free agents, they made the second most moves.
Well, Javonte Williams, because...
Right.
Sure.
Yep. Anything else tickle you?
Oh, Diggyzawa they re-signed their defensive lineman.
Yep.
They re-signed Kevontae Turpin.
That's correct. 3 years, $18 million.
I don't know. That's about it. Who else do they got?
Their long snapper, Trent Sieg, got $3 million guaranteed.
They signed Miles Sanders?
They signed Miles Sanders.
I don't think I even saw that.
Horrendous.
It's bad, dude.
What are they doing?
The Cowboys, they just guys that don't get in the draft. Not only do they only re-sign their own players, they just stick to like their draft grades without updating the pro personnel things.
A bunch of former first rounders or whatever.
All the guys they kind of had too high, they come back and get later, but they don't update the grades based on how they actually played football, which is how you end up paying. What was the draft pick they gave up for Jonathan Mingo?
Like a third
or fourth round pick for Jonathan Mingo, who did nothing in Carolina. Speak of the devil. I say the words Carolina.
Tate Frazier
just oh my God. That was unbelievable.
Say it 3 times and I show up. What's up,
Jonathan Mingo, Jonathan Mingo, Jonathan Mingo.
Like doing it in the mirror. Oh. The
That's
Bloody
so
Mary.
All right. We are now joined by a very special guest, Tate Frazier, literally the first employee of The Ringer. And I think this is a huge... Well, we don't have a ton of guests, and we really wanted you, Tate, for one important reason. I think we have more in common, our shows, than any other shows here at The Ringer, because I think we were talking a couple weeks ago how you get these texts in March, and it's, who's going to win it all, Tate? And then the last text that person sent you was just like March 14th of the previous year. Who's going to win it all, Tate? Yeah. And like, that's just us with fantasy football, where there are just all these tertiary people in my life who only hit me up on Labor Day weekend before their draft.
Who should I draft?
It's like Juwan Jennings or Khalil Shakir. I'm like, I don't know.
I'm on the clock. And I'm like, I haven't talked to you in 2 years.
It's great to hear that we're in the same pool and we deal with the same people. And I think Chris Vernon is probably the one that comes to mind with this. Chris Vernon, his last text before was from last year asking me which teams I like and why Memphis was, put where they were placed. So you know how that goes. So it's great to see. It is tough. And every single time you give an answer, as you guys know, people go, I hate it. You know what I mean? Like,
That's the other thing. That's the other thing
that
the low-key thing about this whole situation is people come out of the woodwork randomly during 2 separate times of year. You give them your answer, and then they say, nah, I'm doing something else.
Right. They don't even use it.
They don't even use it. I know. If there's anything more unpredictable than fantasy football, it's a March Madness bracket. So I commend you for the work you do every year.
That's the other thing.
It's tough.
Tate, I appreciate this too, because I think, maybe I shouldn't admit this, but let's be real. We're just the Wizard of Oz. Like, well, what fantasy player should take in the 13th round? Honestly, throw a dart. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, I want to be the Wizard of Oz. I wish I actually knew the answers to some of these things. But like you said, I've figured out a formula though, right? You go on these different shows and people ask you things. You kind of just play the path different ways because like there's only so many different scenarios that can play out. So like I went on Toronto radio. My whole ploy was, look, it's Michigan State's year, right? So I did that whole run. I go on Seattle radio. I'm like, Gonzaga, best 8 seed I've ever seen. It's their year. Let's make it run. So
pandering to everybody.
You just kind of just drop in, you know what I mean? And then I bring on guests. They give me what they actually think is going to happen. You take that in, you marinate on it. You start thinking, well, there is kind of a path for Louisville to make a run if they get Auburn and like, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you start piecing it together. People remember the tidbits that were wrong. Of course, we all know this. This is the business we live in. The haters, they continue to come out of the woodwork. But it is fun just trying to sprinkle in the facts as best you can. And like you said, we're not wizards. We're just having a good time.
It's always sunny in Philadelphia, Max. Like I'm playing every side, so I always come out on top. You just do 68 hits with 68 teams can make a run. So I want to go through a bunch of stuff here. Also, reminder to everyone, we're going to do a bracket challenge. So if you go to ESPN, the link is in the episode description. We're going to do a bracket challenge. I mentioned this in the intro, but we're going to do the bracket challenge, and Craig's got a little group, and the password's Cloisebox. So you can join that group.
All caps.
Caps, Cloisebox is the password.
You chose a name that's not necessarily super easy.
No, it's kind of hard to
spell.
spell.
I'll put the password in the description
I
as
do
well.
like that.
So
I like
whatever,
that.
like
You figure it out.
Yeah, the real ones know. Tate, I want to start with this is perfect timing because the play-in game is your UNC Chapel Hill Tar Heels versus Craig's San Diego State Aztecs, and that's the actual play-in game for the 11 seeds tomorrow. So I don't even have a question. I just want you two to like fight.
Yeah, I just said to Craig before we got on, this is basically America's team, San Diego State. Everybody loves the Aztecs. They love what Brian Dutcher's been doing. They love the Flying Dutchman. Everybody loves Magoon Guath, and they're happy that he's healthy and he's coming back.
There's someone named Magoon Guath on your team?
Yeah, what?
Magoon.
What does that even mean?
Well, we've been gooning all year, baby.
Gooning.
Seriously. Mountain West Defensive Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year, yeah.
That's the thing. It's like San Diego State's a really good team. So for Carolina to be absolutely getting demolished from everywhere right now about how they don't belong in the tournament, they're playing a team that beat Houston, a team that has some very quality wins, a team that is young but really talented as NBA prospects. So it's a really tough draw as far as, Carolina's kind of entrance. But if you are San Diego State, you also have to fly across the country to Dayton. You're kind of rolling your eyes to that because you think you're above that. You think you're better than that. And they're the only team we've seen in the Mountain West that can actually do something in the tournament. And I know Craig can speak to that as well. So they should probably be a little bit disrespected themselves. You know what I mean? So it's not just Carolina. I feel like San Diego State, America's team, they're upset as well.
I know. Everyone's so pissed at UNC. Basically, they were like the last team in, I guess. Everyone's mad because they're 1-12 in quad one games. I think this is the most mad. Everybody was pissed when Indiana State didn't make it last year, I remember. But people in general hate UNC and Duke. And I have never seen people so upset that UNC made the tournament this year.
And I think the other reason is, so I'm in the Mid-Atlantic here in DC, and so I know a pretty good amount of people who have gone to Chapel Hill. And there should be a rule, like one of the little factors in their little formula, are the fans disgusted by their own team? Because all the UNC fans all year have been complaining that they're like, this team sucks. And I'm like, and you made it?
But are they as disgusted as Indiana? You know what I mean? That's the question. Are they as disgusted as Boise State, right? Like that is the, West Virginia, obviously they have their governor now calling for, corruption, and they're going to investigate the NCAA, which he had a sign where the National Corrupt Athletic Association, which was pretty good stuff. If you're North Carolina, right, you really had a tough situation with Bubba Cunningham being, the director of the committee.
Cunningham?
Yes, that's the AD for North Carolina, Bubba Cunningham. He's running this committee. He can't be in the room. Everyone's saying there's a human element, even though he's not in the room.
The AD of UNC is running the selection committee and is the one on television. Is the one on television defending all of the selections.
Right. But lest
we forget, really? I was in an airport for 16 hours while my flight got canceled during the selection show, so I didn't see anything. Are you serious?
Yes.
The UNC AD made the call?
Yes. He was also on the committee. He was the committee chair in 2023 when they didn't make the tournament. People forget this. They don't want to bring that up. You know what I mean? You got to see both sides of the coin there. Also,
such a politician.
The assistant, his vice, his number 2 guy, number 2, it's like Dr. Evil and number 2 sitting there doing an interview.
Who's number 2 work for?
So there is some sort of pushback there. But yeah, America's very upset. They don't know what wins above bubble means. And that is the metric that they used this year. It was a different criteria for getting into the tournament. But let's be honest. What has the criteria always been? Television ratings. And now we have the best ratings ever. The Mountain West and the ACC, they are at odds with each other. There's a culture war that is happening right now. And now we get to see it front and center in Dayton. And that's what America wants to watch.
You know what's annoying, though, is so everyone's pissed UNC makes it. And then the second they do, every single pundit is like, oh, wow, UNC actually could get hot and make a run.
Of course.
Yeah. They're like 4-point favorites against SDSU. No one is talking about SDSU winning the game. It's immediately like, no, listen, I know a lot of people are upset that UNC didn't made the tournament, but look, preseason top 10 team, they certainly have the talent. We always see a playing team make a splash. We saw it last year. So it's like everyone's immediately like, oh yeah, UNC could actually win a couple games. Wait,
speaking of UNC, we're going to stay on March Madness here for a second, but speaking of UNC Chapel Hill, a very important thing that happened this weekend was Tate, I don't know if you can see the screen. What do you make of this photo of Bill Belichick and his girlfriend at the beach? What do you think of this IG post?
I've been told that the official comment is no response, but it is fascinating. I'm going to be honest with you. I like to see that Bill's that limber. I'm pretty shocked.
Dude,
I didn't know that it was Belichick at first. In fact, I was like, is Bill going to have to get upset about this? That, his girl's got some guy putting her up in the air. And then I found out it was Bill. So it was actually pretty exciting news to see that he's that in shape. I think we got at least a good 5 years, right? I mean, based on that picture, we got 5 more years.
So we got the amount of trust. We have video now on
Spotify.
Yeah. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We have video. If the people listening to the audio only one, I recommend tuning into the video and see this picture. Craig, how would you explain this photo for the people who are just listening to this?
Bill Belichick is at the beach on a lovely sunny day, perhaps in North Carolina, and him and his 24-year-old girlfriend are doing one of those things where you balance her on your feet. He's lying flat on his back, feet in the air, something I could not do right now with my back injury, by the way.
Right.
And balancing his girlfriend like a gymnast on his feet.
His feet are on her ass and they're holding hands. And Mina Kimes quote tweeted this and said, "This is what I do with my 3-year-old. We call it airplane." And I actually think there's a bigger age gap between Bill and his girlfriend than me and her child.
Definitely.
I think you might be right.
I think I am right.
I can't stop looking at it. I really can't. Take that away. I can't even talk to you guys. I can't look away. It's unbelievable. I do think it is funny. Her name is Jordan, and it's spelled differently than Jordan, like Michael Jordan. And I do think at some point they're going to change the football team to Jordan with an O instead of an A, and it will be Jordan brand. So that'll be the next move. We're excited for that.
Okay. Tate, can you give us a breakdown of this 2025 March Madness season? What are the narratives? What are you looking at the most? We have Duke and Auburn and Florida. And who do you like? What's going on? What are the biggest narratives?
Yeah, I like the narratives. We love the storylines. I will say we call him the flagship or the main character. He's from Maine. It is Cooper Flagg. He is the story in college basketball. They didn't want him to be the player of the year. They did their best to make sure that he was not going to be player of the year. The SEC agenda was up against the Duke agenda. It was like a PR war unlike anything we've ever seen. And it does look like the Duke agenda won out. I do think the Wooden Award will go to Cooper Flagg. I had a vote. I voted. I'll be honest with you guys. I voted for Cooper Flagg. It, have to be objective here. He was the best player in college basketball. It's pretty obvious. And now we have the ankle situation. He gets hurt. There is the question mark. When does he come back? Every single one of these guys that are a question mark, that are impactful guys, are pretty much coming back in the first round. I think Cooper Flagg will be one of those guys as well. Maybe they rest him in the first half and they play him a little bit in the second half, or vice versa. But he is healthy. He is fine. He was cheering. He had a 32 chain on, if you did not see him on the bench during the ACC tournament. So that was turning heads as well. There was a lot of people.
What is a 32 chain? I don't even know what this means.
He has a chain sign with his number 32, and it is very huge. It's like an ice. It looks like something that Quavo would be wearing while watching a game courtside, but it's Cooper flag. So there were a lot of NBA people that flagged that. They were like, "Wow, I didn't know that Cooper flag got down like that."
It's funny now that all these 18 and 19-year-old kids are also like millionaires on this. Like it's kind of like it's every now and then you're like, "Oh yeah, right. This 20-year-old is a Lamborghini."
And he has a New Balance deal where he literally is a millionaire. So like Mace came out, right? One of our favorite sports analysts that we have out there. Mace came out and said that Cooper Flag should not play in the tournament, but nobody told him that Cooper Flag is already a millionaire and it's going to be okay. So he's going to play. That's a big storyline. I think the other big storyline is the old school coaches, right? Rick Pitino, Tom Izzo. They have gone old school. They don't shoot threes. They put pressure on the basketball. They're switching everything. It's a very physical game. And both of them are kind of coaching old school, like, they're going after their players, they're yelling at them, they're pulling them close, and everyone's like, I love this. We miss this in this country. We need more coaching like this. But 5 years ago, if you did it, it was like, get this guy out of my face. The game has passed him by. So it hasn't been a complete 180 kind of in those, coaching views. And just look at the coaching carousel and some of the names that are coming up. Now, Will Wade is the hottest commodity in town, which is a pretty big 180 from what we saw back in 2018, 2019. So that's a big thing that's happening in college basketball. I mean, Rick Pitino, obviously I mentioned him with Izzo, but St. John's themselves a big storyline. I'm a little worried everyone's a little too hot on St. John's. The Vegas books said they don't want them to win because there's so many bets on them. I feel like the Italians might turn on Pitino. This is like a movie right now. The fact that like they're going to have to cook the books to make sure he doesn't win. It's like heart versus head divided moments potentially with the books and Rick Pitino.
I'm full in on St. John's. So I'm from New York,
okay,
and I
was
very excited to dive into the Knicks after the NFL season ended and just be like, and the Knicks it's very kind of depressing because they can't beat any of the good teams. And the St. John's in the Garden. I won't pretend to have seen a great St. John's team in my life, but it is so cool to watch these kids in the Garden. And like, it's kind of the scrappiness you wanted the Knicks to play with, where they're trying the hardest, like the full court press, like they're diving. I can't remember the names of the kids, but they're bleeding. They're going back and they're just like, tape me up and going back out. And I'm just here to inform you, Tate, since I think, there's like an equal college basketball level here. That St. John's is going to win the tournament.
Okay.
I'm letting you know.
I like the pick. I did say to Kyle Crichton before the Big East tournament started that St. John's had to win that tournament to make me believe that they could win a tournament. And I do think Rick Pitino, he talked about it after the tournament. He's like, I told them every game, I'm like, this is a first round matchup. You go home and you never see me again. You never see your teammates again if you lose this game. And they're like, what is he talking about? So he coached it like the NCAA tournament. So they're already in that mindset. And RJ Lewis, if you don't know the name, you will know it very soon. Big East Player of the Year. Just a fun guy to root for.
So St. John's has not been good in a long time, right? And then the CEO of Vitamin Water, the Vitamin Water guy.
I want to talk about this. He merged with TB12.
Yes, right. Was basically like, I'm sick of St. John's being bad. I'm going to basically, what Dave Portnoy is doing to Michigan, I'm going to do to St. John's. And then St. John's got a bunch of good players and now they're good. Is that how that worked?
Well, actually their best players were there last year. They just happened to be hurt, right? Zuby Ejiofor, who's their big, he was there last year. He got better. He also had injuries. RJ Lewis was hurt last year, but Kadari Richmond was the one that they bought. He was on Seton Hall. He won the NIT last year. Vitamin Water came in and said, which guy do you need? And Rick Pitino said, he's right over there. And, and they were in New Jersey and they were like, oh God, the Godfather's coming to get his guy. And they got him. And that was the real big power money move. But as Rick Pitino continues to remind us, RJ Lewis is underpaid, Zuby Ejiofor is underpaid, Simeon Wilcher is underpaid, and they're high character guys. They don't have a high dollar amount. He keeps saying that, which I think is great.
Dude, Pitino is the perfect mix of dignified and sleazeball to be like a New York City legend.
I love it.
I just can't believe this guy merged with TB12. And this guy literally is also the TB12, the Noble, that company Noble, which I was like, what do they even do? But yeah, they just decided to pay.
Is it weird now? Do we like that? There's just like, if your alumni has a really rich guy, he can just like turn a program around overnight. I know that it's always kind of been about money, but the fact that it's public now is kind of weird that it can just be like, I'm like praying Kawhi Leonard starts giving money to San Diego State's NIL. Like, is that weird now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Steph Curry was the one that really broke me, that like he has a title and he's officially acting as the assistant GM of Davidson and funneling millions of dollars through a private institution. To me, I was like, what the hell? It's
almost like feudal. It's weird.
Yeah, and Gordon Hayward, he was on One Training Pod last week, and I asked him about Butler, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to start funneling money to Butler.
Damn,
I'm going to
funneling.
It's so weird.
Yeah, funneling is the word. I'm funneling money.
I'm going to start washing money and sending it to
Dude, this is the Dolphins thing too. Like Stephen Ross is the owner of the Dolphins. He's cared more about getting a Miami championship to a Michigan championship than he did about the Dolphins. Like he's the one who got Harbaugh to Michigan. Like, and it was like, oh, what if Harbaugh went to Miami? It's like Stephen Ross is not taking Jim Harbaugh from Michigan. Like it's, oh my God, it's
and you
insane.
got Cuban with Indiana, right? That job's open, and there's like a lot of infighting about who's going to get that job. Like there's Ben McCollum, who's at Drake, who's like a D2 coach that just bopped up to Drake, and now everybody's in love with him. But he plays a very boring style, more defensive. But you got some big fish in the waters that maybe one of these guys that funnels money wants to funnel some money in to get one of these big fish. Or like the carousel is great too, which is another thing because all these coaches, they're coaching for some of these jobs, right? Richard Pitino wants the Virginia job. So if New Mexico wins in that first round game, there's a world in which Virginia can get their head coach and their new point guard. They get Donovan Dent and they get Richard Pitino.
Is that Pitino's son?
Yeah, he's at New
Pitino's
Mexico.
son.
New Mexico?
Richard
Wow.
Pitino.
Is it, wait, what's the bracket? Could they coach against each other? Does that have to be Final Four?
It would have to be the national championship game, which would be incredible. Or actually, I think it would be the Final Four. Actually, it would be in the Final Four.
So Tate. So here's my question, and I want to just go through some of these games, but I'm a pretty classic March Madness person, which is I don't know anything. I watch 3 games, but by Wednesday I'm going to be an expert and I'm going to get everything right. So here's my big picture question: being a total parachute college basketball fan who's excited to win our bracket challenge, the SEC is just better at basketball than football now? Like that just seems like that seems like sacrilege and crazy to say. But I'm looking at this. I'm like, so let me get this straight. Auburn's the number 1 seed in the whole tournament, so they're better at basketball than they are at football. Bama, is better at basketball this season, it seems, than they are at football. Florida's better at basketball this season than they are at football. Seems like Ole Miss is better at basketball than they are at football. Seems like Florida is certainly better at basketball than football. So I'm like, at what point is the SEC a basketball conference, or am I an idiot?
Not only that, Heifetz, 14 SEC teams made the tournament this year, which is a record. 14 of 16 teams made the tournament.
I don't know. I'm looking at the list of like Georgia's there. Like
what
everybody's
happened?
there.
Like what is going? I feel like I woke up and the world is. What is going? I've never felt older.
It was like a concerted effort around like 2015 where the SEC said, we also can make money. It was like someone walked into their office and said, we also can make money on basketball. And they were like, what did he say? They're like, we also can make money on basketball. I was like, what did that son of a bitch just say? And then they all just like, we're like,
get
we
him out
got
of
to
my
do
sight.
this. Yeah, right. And here we are a decade later. Like, they have the best coaches in the game. They have the best athletes in the game. They've been able to identify and evaluate talent. They've been running pro shops since, you can pick your date. They know what they're doing in this new world of the NIL and the moving around. And as far as the teams this year, Auburn is interesting. They're the number 1 overall seed. They have the most quad 1 wins, but they also are trending down right now. Like they don't look like the Auburn team that we saw during the non-con and not even the team that we saw mid-February. So they're fascinating. Florida's trending up. Alabama's trending down, right? So a lot of these SEC teams, like they almost were better a month ago. And I wish I could have seen those versions of those teams in the tournament now. So it is kind of hard to forecast what's going to happen with the SEC. I wouldn't be shocked if like one team makes the Final Four and everyone's like, see, the SEC sucks and dunks all over them. But that's not really how the tournament works. The conference pride thing has gone way too far. Now I'm like fighting battles for the ACC. Like I really don't care what happens to Boston College, but now I'm having to defend them. And that just kind of is what it is right now. It's a lot of conference warfare, but yeah, it's the SEC. They know what they're doing, and they got the best talent and the best coaches. So that's a formula for success.
I know. I actually root against every other Mountain West team because I want to make SDSU just look better, especially as they leave to go to the Pac-8.
That's called the right mindset. That's what you're supposed to do.
Do you like chalk or chaos? I know everybody likes first round chaos, but when it comes closer to like the Final Four, do you like 1s and 2s, or do you like a Loyola Chicago in there?
I mean, no shade to a Loyola Chicago. It's a fun story. I think VCU, Brad Stevens, Butler, those runs were a lot of fun as well. But at the end of the day, I want to see the best teams play. And it does feel like the season makes more sense. And it feels like it matters more when the best teams actually get there. When it is a fluke, you almost feel bad for the really good teams if they lose in the second round in some sort of fluke situation. So, yeah, once we get to Sweet 16, Elite 8, I would like to see the better teams. Maybe, we get a Sweet 16 run. That's a lot of fun, but it ends there with the better team winning. And then once we get to March and the Final Four, it's a lot more fun. I will say 2023 gets a lot of gripe because it's, a lot of teams that people never saw in the Final Four, but it was a really fun Final Four and it was really good games. And
buzzer beater, only buzzer beater ever, Final Four history to take the lead.
Right.
Who was that year again?
Lamont
SDSU,
Butler,
Florida
SDSU.
Atlantic.
Oh yeah. Was that? Oh my God.
2
Right.
years ago.
That's what I'm saying. So a lot of
2
people
years
even
ago?
like that year would not be considered, like things didn't break the right way, but it still was a great Final Four. And honestly, whoever gets to the Final Four is usually fun. And last time we were in San Antonio, 2018, that was the Villanova coronation year. And to see how far we've gone from Villanova, Jay Wright, unstoppable force to, who's going to be the head coach of Villanova. I mean, just look at where Virginia was. They lost to a 1 seed. Now Ryan Odom might be their next head coach and Tony Bennett retired. Like so much has changed since we were there in San Antonio. And that's why a lot of people can't keep up with college basketball because they're like, what's happening? What's going on? And I don't blame them. That's why Bill Simmons is like, I can't talk about it. I don't care. And he hates Rick Pitino. So
I'm all in on Rick. All right. I have a couple dumb questions for Tate. And then do you guys have any other things on March Madness? I have a couple March Madness dumb questions and then one other non-March Madness.
The only thing
question.
I want to interject here is I'm as I peruse the list here, there's 2 teams from Omaha,
Yes.
Omaha and Creighton. So that's something. I'm from Omaha for the record. Go Omaha. I don't really care actually, but my dad
great place by the way. College World Series, Omaha, great time.
Totally. My dad went to Creighton, so I guess I'll just root for Creighton.
Yeah, go Jays.
How's Gonzaga looking this year? I gotta talk for my constituency here. How's Gonzaga looking?
Well, I have Gonzaga going to the Final Four.
Ooh! Oh wow!
Hell yes.
They're a big Ken Pom team. They're like top 10 in Ken Pom, aren't they?
Nice.
Yeah, they were just the team that I picked them to win the national championship at the start of the year. And in the non-conference, they were just still figuring out who's who and what's what. And they weren't quite there. But then they got to the WCC. And St. Mary's, I feel like, is underrated or, not even discussed. I mean, underrated is probably disrespectful to say, even beyond. They're a really good basketball team. And Gonzaga beat them the WCC championship. The fact they got an 8 seed is pretty disrespectful. That's a top 10 Ken Pom matchup.
Going to the Final Four.
Yeah.
So you have them over Houston. So you have them over Houston.
So I basically
why are
have
you
them
picking over 1 seed?
I have them taking Houston's path. You know what I mean? I think both of those teams are like a 1 and a 2 playing in the second round. And I think that they're basically just going to beat Houston in a one-off game because they have more offensive firepower is what I'm banking on in that game.
I'm glad we're having this conversation because I was thinking about that in the other set. I can't tell you how much. Well, I mean, I am a college basketball expert because I watched 2 Florida conference games. So now I know everything about Florida. But so I was thinking, but that Florida game, they're the bottom left. Directions never used the West. It's bottom left. That's it. Florida's the 1 seed. And if they would play UConn maybe in that second round, and I'm an expert because I know UConn won the 2 titles. So why is UConn an 8? And then could UConn win or do they suck now? Because I was wondering if Florida would be the 1 seed that would lose in the second round.
Yeah, UConn, until proven otherwise, you have to watch out for them in March. They still haven't had a close game in March in 2 years. So it does feel like they have something up their sleeve. I don't know what it is. I mean, they do great scouting. They obviously have great sets, and it's also hard to scout their offense if you don't know who they are. So that helps. I think Oklahoma's a tough draw for them, though, because Oklahoma's athletic. Oklahoma has this kid, Jeremiah Fears. He's a freshman. He's a stud.
His name is Fear?
Yeah, Fears with an S. Yeah.
But spelled Fears?
Yes. And
you got to look out for Oklahoma. Yeah. They finished 14th in the SEC this year, and they made the tournament.
Right. And they have so much talent. It's crazy. They went 13-0 in the non-con.
Yes, it is. They were 14th in the SEC,
Dude,
I believe.
Last week, I was at this bachelor party, and there's some conference, I think it's before I left, and there's some conference title game on, or conference basketball game on. I was like, holy shit, did the tournament start? 15 seed. And I was like, oh no, the Big Ten has 15 teams in the Big Ten.
That's really funny.
They have 18. They cut 3 out.
Oh
God. The ACC cut 3 out too. There were 3 teams that didn't even get to play for their own conference tournament. It's ridiculous. That's how dumb this is.
Other questions. So Tate, you have to pick a game 12 seed or higher, and if you're wrong, we're gonna kill you. You'll die.
Yeah,
Jesus.
And I want to know who's gonna be the Jack Golke, the guy who signs an NIL deal in the hotel lobby.
Oh yeah.
I do feel like have you guys seen the manager for McNeese, Will Wade?
No.
Yeah. They're calling him Aura Khan. He walks in with the team, and he has the boombox around his neck and he raps with the team. But
is he
he's
a
already
player?
signed.
Is he Big Dom?
He's a manager. He literally picks up the sweat of the team, but he also is their hype man. And he's got an NIL deal with Tick Pick or something or whatever, one of these companies. And now
State manager?
Yes, his name is I can't remember his real name. Yes, his name is Aura Khan.
Amir Khan.
Amir Khan. I was reading a headline. It said Khan sets historic milestone, and I didn't finish the headline.
He is setting historic milestones. I think he's the first manager to get an NIL deal. So he's someone to put on your radar.
That's unbelievable. Look at this this guy? Oh my God.
That's name, image, likeness. That's what they put it in for. You know what I mean? It's not for all the other BS of paying guys under the table. It's for guys like him. So shout out. Wait,
he's getting with FanDuel.
What?
Wait, FanDuel?
Wait, no, FanDuel tweeted it out. Never
Oh my
mind.
God,
Kyle
he's a
said
Ringer
tweet.
employee now.
No, never mind.
He's
FanDuel
going to
just
be on a
tweeted it out.
podcast soon.
Yeah, our real bosses.
Amir Khan's running it.
Oh wait, so are you saying McNeese is a high seed that we could pencil in?
I would not pencil them in.
Okay.
I would not. They usually, when they play like an actual good team, they do not play up to the level that they play in the Southland, obviously. But I do think Clemson, Will Wade went to Clemson. There is some connective tissue there. He almost took the Clemson job back in 2019 before he went to LSU. So maybe there's something there. The 12 that I really like is Colorado State. And like I said, don't trust the Mountain West, but I think they're severely underseeded. They're hot. I think they have the most momentum in the country. And the fact that they got Memphis, Penny Hardaway took the Kobe picture. Whenever you take the Kobe picture after winning a championship, I feel like you're guaranteed to lose your next game. It's just the karma of the basketball god. So Penny took the plain Kobe picture. They won the AAC championship. And now I'm saying to myself, I like Colorado State. So if you guys are going to kill me, I'll go down fighting for the Mountain West, the conference that has given me much ire in my life.
Every year we do this. It was New Mexico last year. They got destroyed in the first round. But yeah, sure. Nick Clifford.
Let's go.
All right. So you said you got Gonzaga in the Final Four. What's your other teams in the Final Four?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, I'm allowed to say. I just did my bracket, and I've already gotten responses. Hate it. A lot of people hate it. Hated it. The worst they've ever seen. Could never happen. No games have been played, but could never happen. I got
chance.
No chance. I got Michigan State going to the Final Four. Tom Izzo said he's going to die getting this team back to relevance. I do feel like this year is going to be the time that he does not die and he gets them back to relevance. So they get to the Final Four out of Atlanta.
That also could come out the way that might not mean what he thinks it means.
I know. It's very interesting. He went on McAfee today and was talking about like PC culture and how he's not a PC coach. And I was like, maybe I don't back Tom Izzo making this run, but we'll see. He's making the Final Four though. Down in San Francisco in the West, I got Florida. I think Florida versus St. John's. I just think the St. John's doesn't have the athleticism and the depth to deal with Florida. Also, Florida's point guard, Walter Clayton Jr. was Rick Pitino's point guard in the 2023 tournament at Iona. So they have like a connection there. That'll be fun. Point guard versus coach. I think Florida wins. So I got them going to the Final Four. I got Duke going to the Final Four in Newark. That's like playing in their backyard. That's going to be great for them. I mean, Duke fans will be everywhere. I'm going to be at the Elite Eight game, trying my best to do like, Professor Quirrell in the crowd, like, and Snape. Like I'm going to be like trying to conjure up some voodoo to see if I can stop them there. Yeah, I'll do my best.
Craig, that was a Harry Potter reference.
Yeah, it's Harry Potter. Craig doesn't know Harry Potter.
Yeah.
That was a good reference. Too.
Sorry, Craig.
It's all right.
That was from Mallory Rubin.
The thing you didn't know, Tate, is also Craig Thread is back. So he actually can't move or laugh.
I'm so sorry, Craig. I've been there, and I hate that feeling.
I remember you on the floor like Larry Bird recording podcasts.
Tate,
I know. That was the worst.
The first time I ever went into your office, you were just lying on the ground. And like you had thrown out your back. And then like I came to the point where the majority of the times I saw you, you were on the ground. You're never in your chair in your office. You were just like lying flat.
Well, I learned that I didn't know how to breathe properly, like especially like air into my lower back. You know what I mean? So I had to learn a lot of like breathing exercises. And now I'm so California. I have like a reformer upstairs that I just like work my back out on and watch basketball
What do you mean you didn't know how
games.
to breathe?
Like it's very, you know what I mean?
Tell me how to breathe into my lower back.
How do I breathe? I've never once thought how to breathe.
You got to work on it, man. But air helps. I could never get air down to my lower back. And like when I would edit podcasts, my shoulders were so rolled over and I was so anxious, you know what I mean? That like I wasn't getting air down there and it was making it even worse. So I'm Craig, you know what's going on. I feel your pain. That's all I'm saying. We don't have to talk about back pain.
I got a guru.
I feel your pain.
Yeah.
Okay, so who do you have winning the tournament?
All right, winning the tournament, I got Florida beating Michigan State. I got Duke beating Gonzaga. I think Gonzaga is going to give them a fight, but I think Duke's going to win that game. And then I think Duke's going to play Florida. Everyone's going to be on Duke, and I think Florida's going to win the national championship.
Wow.
I do think they're the best team in the country. I know they just won the SEC tournament. I know that Todd Golden, their head coach, has never won a game in the NCAA tournament. So this would basically be something that's never happened before. I mentioned this on my show. It would be like Lute Olson in 1987 if he actually won the national championship. So Todd Golden would make history. Steve Fisher did it, but he was interim. Kevin Ollie did it as a first-time head coach, kind of green, and goes in and win a national championship. So it is very rare, but I really like this Florida team. And if you don't know the name, Will Richard He's my favorite player in college basketball that is not on one of my favorite teams. So Will Richard.
Willie Dick.
Yeah, he's a good one. Will Richard and RJ Lewis, too, for St. John's. Those are my two guys. They're certified OSPers. So those two guys I support.
Which team do you think is most likely going to fuck you? Which one seed is going to fuck you?
That's the right question.
I feel like Duke is honestly up there as much as like I just think that Oregon is a sleeper as like a 5-1 Sweet 16 first game in Newark. Cooper Flagg hasn't played that much. He comes back to that game. Oregon maybe gets a little bit overlooked, or Arizona. Whatever one of those teams ends up playing Duke. So I would just watch out for them in like the Sweet 16 Elite Eight, because when you have the pressure and the expectation to do it, it's not that fun. And I feel like it can get to you a little bit. And like it's drumming up, like the intrigue and Cooper Flagg going on this run is drumming up. I'm getting more and more asked about what is Cooper Flagg going to do? When is he going to play? And if he plays and drops 30 points in a game, you know, America's tuned in and the pressure turns up. And he had 2 times this year, late game, Kentucky in November and Clemson on the road, where he slipped on a wet spot. Not his fault, blame the managers. And against Kentucky, he was a freshman and he was only 17, so also not his fault. So 2 strikes in late game situations, but the third one, we'll see if it happens in March, and knock on wood.
I love it. Tate, thank you so much for coming on. You can.
Wait, I need one final pick.
Please.
Who's going to win, SDSU or UNC? All biases aside.
Are we going to put something on this?
Yeah, what do we do? What do we do for this? Honestly, like I would
SDSU wins, you have to teach me how to breathe in my lower back.
I'm gonna buy one of you guys one of those things that turns over and you like stretch your back out or whatever.
Yeah, there you go.
Hannibal Lecter. Someone gets the
Whoever
Hannibal
wins
Lecter
that,
treatment.
I'm gonna buy you one of those. Send you my dad's.
I think the guarantee, the lock of this game is that Carolina gets down double digits at some point. It doesn't mean that they're not going to win the game. It just means that they're going to be down double digits either in the first half or at some point in the second half. And that's what this team does. They get down and then they make these miraculous runs, and either it works or it doesn't. And in the quad 1 games, as we all see, 1 and 12, it did not work very often. So I do think San Diego State's going to win a close game. That is not trying to be a hater against my own alma mater, but you know, I think San Diego State's got a lot of talent. And these NBA guys, Kyle Mann, they love Magoon Guaf, so it feels like one of those games. How do you feel, though, Greg?
I love
I can't believe we
Magoon.
haven't talked about this guy before.
I'm just hoping to retain Magoon. We need him back next year. The players there, $1 million is going to go a long way.
The funniest part of the whole thing, we're like, oh, if only every school could just have this like NBA player benefactor like Steph Curry to Davidson. Meanwhile, Michael Jordan isn't doing shit for UNC, which I think is
he
the
likes
funniest
NASCAR.
part.
He's a big NASCAR guy. Our starting lineups are presented by NASCAR. It's incredible. I went to the Carolina Duke game. It was like North Carolina starting 5 presented by NASCAR. I was like, thanks, Michael Jordan.
Why doesn't he do anything? Why doesn't he do anything for UNC?
He likes fishing and he likes racing, man. He's just a good old country boy. He thinks basketball is lame now, and I'm kind of with him sometimes. I'm like, yeah, you look around. He's not wrong.
Amazing.
It's perfect. Tate, thank you so much. Tate does one shining pod. He obviously is like the absolute best throughout the whole year, not just March Madness.
Thanks, brother.
And you officially can just bother us now on Labor Day weekend and ask us like, yo, 9th round, do I take Khalil Shakir? And you can just call.
We'll tell you, and then you can say, no, I went the other way with
We're going to put Tate's phone number in the pod description, so if anybody has any questions, shoot him a note.
If you have a question on who to take in your bracket, text Tate. He's very responsive. He loves it.
I appreciate you guys. Also, I can't wait to ask when I should take Javonte Williams. That'll be my first text. So
absolutely.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, DK. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Tate Frazier. One of the first people I ever met at the Ringer. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Justice, a.k.a. Justice.
What's that?
French band. Do the DANCE.
Hell yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Jackie loves French music.
Does Jackie like polo and pan?
I don't know what that is.
She probably does.
I don't either.
They're a French group. I think there's 2 of them. Polo and Pan. Have her check them out.
Polo and Pan. All right. Justice. Oh, I know the
DANCE.
Yeah. That's good.
We're going dancing.
Not me.
Get it?
Oh,
Craig?
God.
No? Well, yeah. Your team might, though.
Dancing in my head. My team is dancing, technically. So how dare you? They're on the bracket.
I can't imagine how fun
they get a plaque. Technically, we're on the bracket.
They are. Dude, what are you talking about? They punched their ticket.
I'm kidding.
I can't imagine how fun that was for you, Craig, because literally just living vicariously through you for the March Madness run when the San Diego State made the finals was one of the most fun sports things I had, solely because I just was with you like every day for that. And I literally can't imagine like if that was like my school that went to the finals of March Madness. I can't even fathom that.
I know. It's almost a bummer because I know that I'll never feel that happy watching a sport ever again. Like that was 100% the peak.
Eat
Arby's.
Arbyes.
Like, it's not like they were a 1 seed like Duke and they just like went to the finals. If they were a 5 seed, they beat the number 1 overall seed in Alabama. They had the buzzer beater in the Final Four. It was like the greatest. And then that was the same year I got married. It was like 2 months before my wedding. 2023, elite year.
Which was better, the buzzer beater to win the Final Four game or your wedding?
Buzzer beater.
Yeah.
Careful, Liz hears you in the other room. She's not going to get you any shit when you can't get up from the couch.
Pound for pound, just in terms of like, joy per second, that buzzer beater is unrivaled.
Oh my God.
The overall day of the wedding, obviously much better, but those 5 seconds.
Were they the best 5 seconds you ever had?
Sure.
There's so many things you could say, but
you guys don't know what it's like. You'll be there. Richmond will be there one day.
I don't know what it's like. I know what it's like. Percy Harvin returned a kickoff for opening kickoff after halftime to cement the Seahawks Super Bowl victory, and that's not even close. Euphoric.
It's not even close.
It is close. What are you talking about?
Your team
close.
No, your team in the Super Bowl and it's halftime. Your team's already in the Super Bowl.
The Richard Sherman tip to beat the 49ers, the hated 49ers, send them to the Super Bowl.
Oh, that was crazy.
Pretty fucking amazing.
Camera.
Okay, that one's cool. If it's a game-deciding play, then that's...
I jumped out of my seat and screamed.
I know what you mean, though, Craig, because again, the Ringer just did the best sports moments of the 21st century. And number 1 was David Tyree, and I got the honor of writing the David Tyree helmet catch.
Yeah, totally.
But that wasn't to win the game. So I know what you're saying where that was incredible, but the feeling you're talking about of winning that, I know what you mean where it's well, we still have to go score the touchdown to win the game.
It was do or die. I mean, you're truly life on the line. They were down 1. It wasn't that's a tie game. If they miss, it's overtime. That was it. And it was also Jim Nance's last year. So you got the Jim Nance on the call. It was great.
Ugh. Incredible. All right.
They'll probably lose tomorrow. So
yeah, they'll probably lose. Episode description.
Just check out the episode description. There's a lot in there.
We've actually never needed you to check out the episode description more than we do for this episode.
Yeah, I know nobody reads anymore.
Tate Frazier's
nobody reads anymore. But
number. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure there's so many people who've never clicked on the episode description. But Chicago live show in the episode description.
Let's start putting little Easter eggs in there.
Oh, that's actually really funny. We just put shit in there and don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
You got to open it. It's kind of a good idea. And then, join the bracket challenge. It's fun. There's nothing better than a bracket pool. GPC shirt on the line. Already did the thank you, Lauren. Well, it's kind of awkward. I was good.
Just let us go. Craig's back is killing it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.